March has come and gone, and we have played games in the month of March. So that brings us to this new series we are starting, where we are going to be covering, I should say, I'm saying we. Right now it is going to be I, but there's going to be sometimes I'm going to have a person say next to me, where we are going to cover the games that we played that were new to us in March. So these aren't necessarily going to be brand new games. They're going to be games that we played for the first time in March. So as we've been doing, it's going to be a top 7. So join me after break to hear that list. All right, so before we get into the list, as I said, there will be times that Brian will join me on these. This time it is just me. Couple other things. So March was a little bit slower for us for the last week and a half of March. Bri was down with COVID, so she wasn't able to play any games. So there was a large gap there where we normally would play games that we didn't. So this is a little bit of a slower month. 2, all of these games have some form of coverage on the channel. I will attempt to link them above as I start talking about the games. I believe I can only do like 5 videos links, so if I can't get something done, all the links, however, will be down below for those games and the various things we've done if they are something you want to check out in the future. 3 is, up until recently, I was bad at recording the plays of stuff that we were doing previews of because I didn't put them in my collection, because we didn't technically own them on Board Game Stats, whatever. I'm starting to do that. Plus, I was able to kind of look at the videos and stuff we've done to kind of get the idea of those games that we played for the first time in March from those. Alrighty, so that's a lot of caveats to say. So we are now going to get to my number 7. All right, so my number 7 is Goblin Vaults from Thunderworks Games. So this is one that I believe they kickstarted a few years ago. I passed on it at that time because I don't know what it was about the rulebook at that time. It was hard for me to grasp my head around the vaults and the bids and all of that. Plus, it had a 2-player variant playing against an AI deck, and we're usually not big fans of that. So it was one that I kind of passed on and figured I'll just get to at some point. Actually, maybe it wasn't a Kickstarter. Maybe it was an advanced purchase. Either way, when they launched it, however they launched it a few years ago, we passed on it for those various reasons. Well, then they did a Kickstarter campaign for Emerald Skulls, had this whole cool Swindler's chest that had Goblin Vaults included and Emerald Skulls and this cool playmat and all the bells and whistles. So we jumped on that because I really like the look of the box. I really like the look of Emerald Skulls with the dice rolling. Figured, you know what, it's not much more. Let's go ahead and add Goblin Vaults. It's a card game. She likes card games. Worst case scenario, I got a cool looking box. Well, this one actually ended up hitting nicer than I thought it was going to based on those rules. Running Glavroon wasn't that hard. It literally was just flip over a card, and then you have to see about trying to outbid them. So it kind of simulated a third player, but not. Then the better part of that is that is how the solo play goes. So it kind of gave me a heads up on how I'm going to be playing the solo play. The only difference is you flip over 2 cards as opposed to 1. So overall, with that whole bidding and kind of adding some trick-taking mechanisms into it where you have the trump suit and then all the other cards, and then trying to figure out the spatial relations in your vault in addition to scoring all these other cards, it ended up being a much meatier game than the rule book and the amount of components and just the way it looks was, because of all the varying different scoring options and the way you want to maneuver the bids. And, you know, sometimes you might want to underbid to be able to get that card back to your area. So like I said, it was a lot meatier and it ran a lot smoother. Like I said, maybe when I read the rule book, I was having an off day because it just wasn't clicking in my head. But after we got it, I read it and had no problems understanding the rule book. Actually, the one rule I missed is, for some reason, even though I read there was 4, we started playing the first game with 3 vaults, and that was extremely bad. But we fixed it and got better at that. But yes, so that is my number 7, Goblin Vaults. My number 6 is a game that I got more so for the theme and the cute nature of it. And I mean gameplay too, and that is Pack the Essentials from, I believe it's actually Wacky Wizard Games, but it's an imprint of Wise Wizard Games. In this one, you are building out your luggage with polyomino pieces that you're drafting from the board. You can use pack rats to turn them to cats, which is going to score you more points. You're trying to get color groups together, etc. So one of the things I really like about this one that not a lot of the polyomino games do is that if you're the first player, you're not necessarily going to draft first. Instead, you are going to choose your draft position and then getting certain bonuses based on which draft position you are choosing. So I like that little twist in there to where, if you're the first player and nothing that you want comes up, then it kind of feels like a wasted turn as first player because you're like, well, I'm just grabbing just any old thing. I don't care. But if you're able to choose your draft position, you can be like, you know what? Out there's 2 or 3 things that I want. Then I'm going to pick second or third, knowing I'm going to have those left and be able to get these other bonuses that I want to get instead. So that's one of those. That's why I said I really like that tweak on there. The solo mode on this one plays quick and easy. Every even round, you're going to flip over this cat lady card. They're going to say certain spots where you can't pick, and then you choose from the remaining ones, still building out, still doing all the same basic scoring, and then you're just going to be playing against the cat lady's score. I will say this game isn't without its faults. The polyomino pieces feel a little smaller or lighter than other ones, so I did notice we kept kind of knocking them around and they kept moving around a bit more. And the bag that you put the polyomino pieces in is fairly small. So once you get them in there, it's hard to kind of mix them up. They kind of just are jammed in there and you're just having to like pluck them out that way as opposed to being able to get a really big mix out of them. But that is just a couple of small quibbles there. All right, number 5 is one of those preview games, and this one is Observatory. This is a game that will be coming to crowdfunding very soon from 25th Century Games. This is a roll and write where you have a sheet that you are going to be plotting out stars in, and then you're going to be connecting those stars to form constellations. This one has a lot going on in it because your constellations can't cross each other. So when you're putting them, you need to make sure you're kind of planning out where they are so that they're not intersecting and you can draw them. So really being able to manage your sheet and where you're going to be able to go. And then the really cool thing with this one is, so ones are wild, but you have a 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But each number has 2 rows or 2 columns under it. So when you get those numbers, there's actually going to be, so if you have like a 3, 3, there's actually 4 squares that you can choose to do. Or because you're rolling dice and then line them up and so forth. And then you have your tools on the bottom that you're going to be filling in. So which tools are you going to want to go with first? In addition to that, the first player, the active player, I should say, first player, kind of moves around however you want to say it, is when they roll the dice, they have this shooting star die, and that one's going to give you a number. So what you can do is in either the row or column, your choice that matches that number, you can just fill in one. So I really like that aspect too because it gives that extra one right there. And then at the beginning of the game, you're looking at, how many rolls, and I get 3 stars per round, and this is going to play over 12 rounds. That's only 36 stars. That doesn't seem like a lot. But certain constellations, when you fill them in, are going to give you either bonus stars or research on those tracks down at the bottom. On the bottom is once you fill in 3 numbers on those, then you have the ability to then start either getting another research point or filling in a star anywhere. There's a certain tool that gives you 4 stars you can fill in anywhere. So there are a lot of options to start getting those extra stars to be able to put out to get those constellations to possibly churn out some more actions, some more research points, etc. So this is just one of those really cool, thinky spatial aspects put into a roll and write that isn't polyominoes, because usually your spatial aspect relies on polyominoes. This one is more star plotting and then trying to figure out where those lines are going to go. So my number 5 is Observatory. I will, of course, include a link to the Kickstarter down below. If it's not going yet, then go ahead and follow it. If it is going, check it out. They do have a second game in there. We didn't get a chance to play that, but there is a second game included. Alrighty, so that was my number 5. All right, my number 4. It's a back-to-back for 25th Century Games. We played quite a few games by them this month. And this one is a small card game that is readily available, and this is Penguin Party. So this is a re-implementation of a game from a while ago, as has been the case with a lot of Knizia games lately. They're kind of retheming them and bringing them up. But this is one where you're going to be building a pyramid of penguins with the cards in your hand. The cards have colors. In order to place a card on top of 2 cards, it needs to match one of the 2 colors underneath. This one is fun. This is quick. It's because there are no numbers. It is all just colors. It is a 2-player variant where basically your pyramid is 1 card shorter. Instead of a bottom row of 8, it's 7. And instead of dealing out all the cards, each player gets 14, if I remember correctly. And then you play. The scoring on this one is if you cannot play a card, you have to pass. You take a negative point token for all of your cards that are left in your hand. But that doesn't mean the other person stops playing. They have to keep playing until they can't play anymore. And then once they can't play anymore, they are also going to take negative points for whatever's left in their hand. If you're able to get rid of your whole hand, you can get rid of 2 negative point tokens. You play amount of rounds equal to the number of players. So that whole number of rounds per number of players, that was the one thing I wasn't a fan of in this one that we are thinking of implementing and playing with maybe 2 rounds per player in a 2-player game. Because in a 2-player game, 2 rounds just kind of felt anticlimactic. You didn't have much time to try and get rid of those negative point tokens. There wasn't really much. There wasn't that amount of time. That's about all I can say on that. But beyond that, like I said, I really liked the gameplay. It played quick. We played it with 3 players with the youth. They liked it. In a 3-player game, it definitely changed the dynamic from a 2-player game. I have covered all this in the review, but in case you don't watch the review, I'm covering it here. With a 3-player game, you have perfect knowledge of what cards are available because all of the cards are dealt. In a 2-player game, you don't because there's 8 cards that aren't in there. So that really does kind of change your decision space of, well, I know if I cut off this color, I'm out of this color, so I don't care if that color advances, and they're going to be stuck with those colors. Whereas you don't have that knowledge per se in a 2-player game because maybe they don't. Maybe a lot of those colors are in those 8 cards that are set off to the side. So you may not be sticking with as many cards as you want. So like I said, just that weird dichotomy there of how, I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know. I just really like the word dichotomy. But that's that whole thing is, the 2-player has that different play state than the 3-player. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I did really enjoy this one. And like I said, it plays quick, easy, small footprint. It is go bag worthy. So that is my number 4. Moving on to my number 3. This is one that just wrapped up crowdfunding not too long ago. I'll include a link to the backer kit because this wasn't on Kickstarter. This was on backer kit as part of their Pocketopia. And then maybe there might be late pledges or there might be a way you can get it. And that is Surplus of Sloths from Where Giraffe Games. I'm going to try my best not to put crowdfunding games on here because they may not be the easiest to get. But if it really excelled, then it's going to show up on this list. And this one excelled because A, I love sloth. So the sloth game was getting on the list. And B, kind of like Penguin Party, this is a quick playing small footprint card game. So basically you're going to start with some sloth cards in your hand. Then out on the table, there's going to be 2 rows of cards and then these sloth surplus net. So on your turn, you are going to choose one of the 2 rows, take a card from it. The other player is going to take a card. Everyone's going to take a card. It's going to leave 1 card. That goes down into the net. You refill that row. You're going to go until all the cards have been drafted and fallen into the net. At that point, you are going to go left to right on the different colored sloths, and people are going to reveal their hands. Whoever has the run of cards that has the most cards, highest cards, etc., is going to get those cards from the net. They're going to discard the cards they played from their hand, and then they're going to be scoring based on those cards. You have the face value, and then if you get certain X's, which are wilds, those are going to increase your score by times 2, 3, or 4. So that is the basics of the game. That's it. It's a small little deck of cards where you're going to be grabbing sloths. And that is what I like. I like the speed, even though it's a game about slow animals, the speed of which the game plays. Like it's literally grab a card, deal them out, go. Grab a card, go. And it has a decision space, but not enough that slows it down. Like you're going to see your hand, you're trying to make, runs of cards. So it's almost got a rummy element to it without meaning like having the sets of 4s or whatever, but making those runs. So it has that rumminess of it where it's going to mentally click of what you're trying to get here. But then not just that, you don't necessarily want to keep grabbing all of one color because, you may have a good run, but if there's not enough in the net, then all those cards are for nothing because you're going to score like 2 points and you're going to barely get any points from it. So that whole decision of, when do I leave something out there and hope my opponent leaves it to get down to the net so I can get it with my hand, etc. So that is why Surplus's Loss is my number 3 that we played in March. All right, my number 2 is King of Tokyo Duel. So obviously, being a channel that focuses on the two-player experience, when there is two-player games that come out, we're interested. When there are two-player versions of bigger games that we might not be able to get played often because they don't play well with two players, we're interested. And so that's why King of Tokyo Duel, I really like the basis and theory behind the initial one with whole pressure luck, dice rolling, big monsters fighting each other. It's just like I said, it doesn't play well at a two-player game because it kind of just comes a battle of who goes in and out of Tokyo, etc. So it's not as enjoyable there. King of Tokyo is much more for like a bigger player count. So King of Tokyo Duel distills that essence of the rolling, the beating each other up, and so forth. But when it distilled it to a two-player one, added a tug of war mechanic. So instead of being able to win based on scoring points, those point icons on the dice, the 1, 2, and 3, were switched out for a fame icon, a destruction icon, and an exclamation point. The fame icon, destruction icon works just like it did with the points. You have to get 3 of them first, and then each one additional one adds more to it. But it's you're pulling these tokens on the map towards you, trying to either get one all the way to you or both of them in the spotlight zone in order to win. The exclamation points, it relates to a special power that each monster has. The base game comes with 6 monsters, so you have these 6 monsters that have these special powers that trigger with these exclamation points. They vary from giving you more energy cubes to doing more damage. And then one is in relation to these buzz tokens, which is brand new, of course, in this game. And the buzz tokens, when you buy certain power cards, you put these tokens on the board that might let you heal, that might let you do damage, that might create a shortcut so you can get it there quicker, or create a longer path but giving more benefits, so it could take them longer to get to your opponent. But then there's, like I said, the one monster who has special ones of those that hinder your opponent. So just the fact that it is that whole essence of King of Tokyo with the dice rolling and the monsters fighting with this whole tug of war mechanic really made it excel as a two-player game for us. This is one that I actually got played while Brian was down with COVID because the youth stepped up. They're like, hey, I like King of Tokyo. Let's go ahead and give it a try. And we did. And we had some really cool moments with it where we were damaging each other big early. Then we started healing and then trying to get the things back and forth and getting the cards. And they really enjoyed it. They are willing to play it again, which is in essence a stamp of approval from them. So that is my number 2, King of Tokyo Duel. And my number 1 game that we played in March is kind of no surprise to me because it was the game I was most excited to get to the table when we got it in March. And that is Tabletop Inc., formerly known as Meeple Inc. There was a ordeal with that. Look it up if you're interested. So Tabletop Inc. comes to us from Cotswold Games. I can't remember because they had to switch their name as well. So Tabletop Inc., Cotswold Games. So in this one, you are basically a game company making board games. So there's a worker placement element. You're putting workers out, gathering what you need, employees, various things like that. You are getting components, research, play testing, all the elements that go into making a game, including the actual little game boxes. You're going to make those, you're going to get them, and then you can either put them up for award or keep them for points. Although when you put them up for award, they're points as well. And just going around the board doing that. So I will say with this one, production value, fantastic. We do have the deluxe version, so some of our components were upgraded, but even the non-upgraded bits, that they come with these little game boxes with the little like parody art and names that you actually put the tokens in and you build them, and then you can put them up on the little calyx shelf. So we have a wood one, but the game itself comes with this punchboard one that you can put up, so you actually do have them on a shelf. There's easels to put your little company cards. There's the game tables that you're going to put all of your people around that feel really nice. Like I said, the deluxe components give you actually like little dice and little magnifying glasses and all of those. It's a really well-produced game, and it flows really well. And just so they have 2 board layouts. One's a little bit more crazy and involved, and one has a very good layout of, All this gets you people in place of people. All this down here gets you the resources you need. Up here is all about getting the things you need to make for the game. So it's just a really nice board element there. I do have a couple of gripes with this, even though it being my number one, and that is that it can seem hard to get the resources because so when you place it, there's a space that's usually free and then a space that has a danger that you need to pay stuff for. So trying to be able to get the resources, be able to pay for that, in addition to all the stuff you need, does seem like a very tight economy. In the rulebook, they say when you play the game, it is going to leave you wanting more. And that is accurate because basically how the game end is triggered is there's this little time token, and every time you bring back your workers, it moves once for every worker that you brought back. So I think it's set at like maybe, is it 40 in a 2-player game? And you start off with, I think, 3 workers or 4. Either way, you aren't going to have that many recall actions, so you're going to need to optimize the actions you do to be able to get out some board games. So we felt like we wanted to do more. They do say if you want to do more, just move the time token up more. It is going to be a longer game, but you're going to get more stuff done. So that is something that we are going to explore in the future. But like I said, this was the one that I was the most excited about. I didn't have a physical copy of the game to preview myself, but I did a preview for their campaign when they were on GameFound because it really did the whole meta thing. And as I said, the way that they were producing it really intrigued me and brought me into this one. So this is one that has a fancy coat of paint, but there is still some good game underneath there of placing out your worker, collecting your components, building your game. So it does sound kind of basic. It is one of your basic, collect stuff to make stuff. But the fact that when you get these certain employees, that gives you another worker, and that worker excels at a certain part of the board, and then where they don't have to pay that danger cost, so they can go there and possibly get the better stuff, or just go there in case other people are there, adds a really cool element. And the fact that your table can only hold 6 people, and it's held up by one of your people, like you yourself. So kind of making sure you optimize who you choose and so forth. All right, but that was my top 7 games that I played in March. Like I said, hopefully April will be a bit bigger because hopefully Bri won't be sick. She has already gotten better. We've already started playing some more games. And who knows, she may join me for the April list. I will include, so there was 16 games that we did play in that were new to us in March. After I wrap up here, I'll have the list go so you can see all 16 games and how they rated in case you're wondering what else we had played and did it make it into the top 7. Alrighty, but before we get to that list, I'm going to get to the normal preamble stuff that we have to do that YouTube wants us to do, and that is to tell you to please go down below and hit like, subscribe, share, ring the bell, comment what was your favorite new to you game in March. If you are looking for some of these games or games in general, there's a link to Miniature Market down below. That's an affiliate link that will help this channel keep going. Other ways to help that is by joining our Patreon, hitting up our Ko-fi, or joining the channel itself to where you can see some of these videos, or see most of our videos early, and also get exclusive other videos such as crowdfunding that we are currently looking at and thinking of backing. Alrighty, so stick around for that list, and then I will see you all in April for another list like this, but much times before then as I do all the things I do on the channel.